Good evening, Franklin Township. Welcome to the October 26th edition of the Franklin Reporter and Advocate News Hour. I'm your co-host, Bill Bowman, the editor and co-publisher of the Franklin Reporter.
And I'm PJ Parker. I'm also the co-publisher, but I'm the advertising director. We welcome you to our news hour tonight.
And we have a great program on tap. We're going to be joined by State Assemblyman and Franklin, I guess son of Franklin, you could say, right? Joe Danielsen, who has whose bill on concerning concealed carry of firearms is making its way through the legislature. I understand there's a vote coming tomorrow, but he can fill us in on that. Some folks have said that if this bill passes as it's written, it's going to give New Jersey the strictest concealed carry regulations in the country. So this bill has national implications. Of course, you know, it's the cloud over this is the recent decision, I guess, is in New York, Brune versus New York. I think that's what it is, where New York State's concealed carry regulations were knocked down by the Supreme Court. But we can talk about that with Joe. So, without any further ado, yes, you have something to say, Peach?
I just wanted to clarify the bill is actually A4769, and its language is making various revisions in the requirements for obtaining firearm purchaser ID cards, permits to purchase handguns, and permits to carry handguns, codifying sensitive places in which firearms and weapons are prohibited. So with that, I'm sure Assemblyman Danielsen is going to explore all of the above.
Right. And as always, Franklin, if you have any questions, don't hesitate to write them in the comments section underneath where you're watching this, and we will bring them to the Assemblyman. All right. Let's speaking of the Assemblyman, why don't we bring him on? Assemblyman Joe Danielsen, how are you?
Hello, Bill. Hello, PJ.
Welcome,
And I
Joe.
want to thank the Franklin Reporter and Advocate for always covering everything that's important in Franklin Township from all four corners, north and south.
We appreciate that. You appreciate that. That means a lot.
Yeah. So here we go. I guess we're talking about gun control, gun legislation, concealed carry. That's a big issue in this state. Historically, New Jersey has been a very difficult state to get a concealed carry license. You practically have to marry the local police chief, I think, to get one. So, talk to us about the genesis of this. Why? I know that you're a hunter. So, tell me why you, as a gun owner and a hunter, why did you want to do this bill?
One has very little to do with the other, but your viewers need to understand that the Supreme Court in the last three precedent cases, McDonald, Heller, and Bruen, have turned our gun world upside down. And putting aside if you like this decision or not, and I'm not very comfortable personally with the radical fanatic Supreme Court decisions of late, starting with the attack the Supreme Court has levied on women and their right to make their own decisions regarding their reproductive rights. I just see this as a new playing field that we have to deal with. New Jersey has maintained an extremely successful law and policy that has transcended more Republican governors than Democratic governors as it relates to carrying concealed or open weapons. So because we greatly limited that to our success, we never really wrote out the ground rules of who, how, when, and where one can carry because so few people carried. And historically, permits were issued by your local police department in partnership with the county prosecutor, approved by a Superior Court judge. And those three offices would decide on the conditions, who, where, and how. That's all gone now. We have hundreds of thousands of people now applying because the Supreme Court has ruled that you cannot issue a permit based upon justifiable need. The default is you shall issue the permit. But the Supreme Court did allow and emphasize that legislators can determine the definition of law-abiding and responsible. We are allowed to determine other facets like training, the application process. And the Supreme Court explicitly said we can define sensitive places. And then they went on to say you can't be too broad in your definition of sensitive places, like what New York did. They identified the entire island of Manhattan as a sensitive place. And the Supreme Court thought that that was too broad. So my bill is creating the boundaries, the ground rules, the qualifications, the disqualifications, the training, the insurance, the sensitive areas, the limit on the number of guns you can carry, how you potentially can travel. And that's where we are today. But I'm responding to not only the Supreme Court case, but I'm also responding to the people of New Jersey. The far majority of people want us to put in rules, regulations, boundaries, limits, safety training. This is all common sense stuff that my supporters, my constituents, and the general public in New Jersey demand. And that's what we're doing.
Okay. This has been an issue for a while. Why did you decide to take up this mantle?
Well, I've been, as you know, I'm a sportsman. I'm a gun owner. I'm a veteran. I've been the loud and active moderate voice in my caucus for many years, from day one, probably the loudest. And I wanted to make sure that I had a standing on the bill. I'm very familiar with our criminal code. I'm familiar with firearms, and I'm familiar with the community of firearm people. And I thought I was best positioned to be one of the leaders. But let me stress, I'm not the only author of this bill. There's many, many authors. The state PBA, the state police retired. Some of my Republican colleagues are secretly contributed authors to this. So I think this bill is more common sense and safety than it is more about guns.
Okay. Excuse me. So let's take a little deep dive into this, just as deep as we can. You named a bunch of different areas that the bill covers. Let's talk about insurance regulation or insurance liability. Okay. Excuse me.
All right. Well, the Supreme Court categorized gun laws into three categories, and one of them is surety. So they spoke on it. To the average person, I'll remind them that you need liability insurance to drive a car. You need liability insurance to do a lot of things. Even one could say, if you have a business with employees, you have to have insurance. You have to have workers' comp insurance. The immense amount of responsibility and danger that is presented when you carry a loaded firearm with you, even if you use it perfectly, legally, or have accidents, or just cause harm and injury to somebody or their property, you should have maintained a certain level of financial responsibility. And this insurance is absolutely compliant with the Supreme Court decisions, and it's something that the average New Jerseyan would expect one to have.
Do other states have this requirement?
I'm not sure. I know of just one case that we were trying to do a comparison to that need not be mentioned specifically, but I don't need another example. I'm very comfortable being the first state.
Okay. Would this be a very expensive insurance?
No, it would be less than $100 a year.
Okay. All right.
And some people, if you join the if you join the right club or the right association, this insurance would come with it at no additional cost.
Mm-hmm. All right. What about the
Let me also note that if you have a homeowner's insurance policy, you're already covered. If
oh,
you
really?
have an excess liability policy, you're already covered. If you have a renter's insurance policy that includes liability, you're already covered.
Oh, that's
So
interesting.
this will not cost anything different.
Okay. All right. So what about the process of getting a concealed carry permit? Talk about that.
Well, I'm very proud of the process, and it's we did mature it from your firearms ID, purchaser's ID card, and your permit for handgun purchase application process. So the what we added is the training requirement. So every 2 years, you would need to retake your training, which would include an academic portion and a practical portion. We also increased the background check portion of it. So the police will have to do more of a background check that may include interviewing your references. And I'll stress that the references you provide them. We increased the number of references. Now, in the past, for purchase, or actually still currently, for your firearms purchase ID card or your permit to purchase a handgun, you only need 2 references. For the concealed carry permit, you'll need 4 references, and they can't be co-domiciled with you or related to you by blood or marriage or blood or law.
Okay.
And I mean, a reasonable person would think that would be reasonable, that if you're carrying a loaded firearm amongst our community, you should have the training. And I'll remind you, police retrain on their weapons once a year. Retired police have to qualify every 6 months. This is only requiring it every 2 years.
Mm-hmm.
And I think that's reasonable. It's common sense, and it's more about safety than it is anything else.
How did you come up with your list of sensitive areas?
A lot of them have already been exemplified in other states, but this is also talking with all the stakeholders. For example, the Hospital Association, they wanted to make sure that they were on the list. They have security issues. If you go into any hospital, first thing you see is a receptionist and all the security guards. Courthouses, government buildings. We now know, thanks to Republicans, even our United States Capitol is not safe from insurrectionists. So we put government buildings, mental health facilities, schools, daycares, colleges, which I'll bring to your attention if you don't know, they're already illegal to bring guns into these places.
Hmm.
So we've only added them. We in the bill, we mentioned a list of places that are tentatively have potential to be restricted, such as parks. Parks are not automatically restricted, but if the state, county, municipality, or private owner makes a gun-free zone within the park, such as if there's a playground for children or a pond for paddle boating, they can make that a gun-free zone, and then that zone would become a restricted area.
Okay. Did you have anything?
Yeah, I wanted to go back on something that we had touched on before we went live. That I had spoken with someone whose concern was that this appears to be targeting the permit holders, the lawful permit holders, and the sensitive areas, as are indicated. And I'm reading again your language: schools, government buildings, polling places, bars, restaurants, theaters, sporting arenas, airports, casinos, and childcare facilities. The preponderance of mass shootings, I'm surprised that I'm not seeing religious facilities in this, unless it just didn't make it to this particular
They're
list.
included. They're encompassed with the private property.
But I'm thinking, and it was posed to me as just something to ponder, that those in those sensitive areas who may be lawful permit holders are not carrying their weapons. And the mass shootings that have occurred in many of these sensitive areas, I would bet, and I'm not a betting person, but that person or persons who have annihilated so many lives in so many of these sensitive areas, particularly schools, particularly churches, they're not carrying permits. And then those who are within those sensitive areas now are not permitted to have weapons to defend themselves. How does this prohibit or act in the best safety interests of people who are already in those sensitive areas? Because now they can't defend themselves. And again, this is not necessarily my viewpoint, but it was expressed to me, and I did mention that I would bring it to your attention.
Okay, two things, PJ. This bill is not an attack on anyone. This bill is very specifically addressing the fact that the radical fanatic Supreme Court just said everybody shall be issued a concealed carry permit or a permit to carry in public. And New Jersey, absent a mature foundation of rules and rules of the game, we are responding to that. This bill is not meant to address the illegal people or criminals or gangs or whatever. This bill is specifically addressing the legal gun owner process. And in that process, there is well grounded in safety and common sense. Regarding the second half of your question or comment is of sensitive places. So to me, it's illogical for you to rely on a unwoven group of invisible vigilantes, and I say visible because they're concealed carry, to provide you security if you in fact have a place that's sensitive and vulnerable. Mm-hmm. What I think the question is begging to is beefing up the uniformed sworn security mm-hmm. to make you feel better and provide security. So we can't rely on just who happens to be there. That's not a strategy. The police don't use that strategy, or federal government doesn't use strategy. The military doesn't use that strategy. So if you want security, you have to put security there. You can't rely on it. And may I also bring to your attention, the Second Amendment is founded on the principle of one providing security for themselves, exactly. Not for others.
Exactly.
So you can't repurpose the Second Amendment for convenience or the cool factor.
The cool factor. What's that?
Okay. All right.
What's the cool factor? There's somebody's going to ask us that.
We have a couple questions. More than a couple. I'm just going to read a couple from I have to take my glasses off because I can't read with my glasses. From Township President, and I guess he's an attorney. Well, I don't guess he's an attorney. He's an attorney. And a former Board of Education member, Rob Troutman. He's got several issues here. Like I said, I'm going to get through a couple of them. I don't see any other questions yet. Let's see. He says that the Governor Murphy signed an executive order in 2019 explicitly banning insurance carriers from selling firearm liability insurance in New Jersey. He wants to know how that reconciles with your bill.
I don't need to reconcile anything. I believe someone should have liability insurance. Most people already have the liability insurance if they're a homeowner or a renter or have excess policies. And if he has a question for the governor, he should ask the governor. But the governor's not writing this bill. I am.
Okay.
Along with my other co-sponsors and other contributing authors, which include some of my Republican colleagues.
Okay. Another question he had is, in light of the Bruin decision that requires the permitting process for carry licenses be completely objective, how do you justify your requirement that they get references attesting to the good moral quality?
So that wording has been since changed from the first reprint.
Okay.
This process is completely objective.
Okay.
And I'll also note that there is a very fast appeal process built into that. So if someone were to be denied or delayed, they have steps that are automatically included. And I'll also bring to your attention that if the law states that within 90 days, if you are not given a denial or an approval, it is to be deemed approved. So some people will always have nothing but complaints, talking heads. They'll never mention the good, objective, fair material in the bill. That you've ran into many of these people.
Another issue he brings up: do you realize that the increased fees and insurance and training and the process that requires interviews could have a disparate impact on low-income communities?
Well, I find that coming from my Republican neighbor in Franklin to be painfully ironic, as he had no problem with the Republican Supreme Court launching an attack on women as it relates to their reproductive rights to make their own decisions. And now he tries to espouse being an advocate for low-income people. That's a desperate argument. I'm not even going to address it, but I will say that we all know that when you want to do things with the government, fees are often associated. Building permit fee. If you want to have a parade, you're paying a permit fee, and you might even be paying, and probably will be paying, for the police. And that's a First Amendment constitutionally protected activity. Sometimes there is the new process that is now going to ensure hundreds of thousands, if not millions of people apply. That cost should be, in part at least, levied upon the applicant and not the rest of the taxpayers.
Okay. And the last question I'm going to read is, apparently in the Bruin decision, the court set a requirement that, I guess, any sort of regulations affecting carrying of firearms in public, I guess, has to be related to historical regulations of firearms that existed in 1791 when the Second Amendment was ratified. And how does that jibe with banning concealed carry in parks and beaches and schools and entertainment venues and restaurants and a host of other places?
Yeah, this is why I try to avoid talking to ambulance chasing attorneys when it comes to constitutional issue. What he's also failing to state is the Supreme Court made that argument in both directions. So I'll give you an example. There's been a Fourth Amendment decision as it relates to someone's privacy when someone wants to put GPS tracking on their vehicles. GPS did not exist, to the best of my knowledge, in 1791, but yet that technology exists today. So not everything is going to pivot on historical analog.
Okay.
But it is important, in accordance with the Supreme Court. They made it very clear historical analog is an important factor. We're taking that into consideration, and we're doing the best we can. But if we're going to make an error, Bill, PJ, listen to me. If we're going to make an error, I'd rather make it on the safety side than the radical fanatic side. People expect us to keep them safe first and foremost.
So this would have no impact, say, if there was a rash of attacks on mosques or temples. This would not have any impact on those mosques or temples wanting to bring in security, armed security.
It has no bearing. Matter of fact, this empowers houses of worship and the police. So since houses of worship are private, they can decide for themselves to allow everybody with a carry permit to come in, nobody with a carry permit to come in, or they can select individuals that they want to come in. It's up to them, built in the law. For the police, the state PBA, the retired police, the state police, the state retired police, they are all co-authors, contributing authors to this. And as of 2 days ago, they had no more objections.
Mhm.
I wrote in based upon the New Jersey Chief of Police Association. They gave me the very last bit of material to put into the bill, and that was included a duty to inform. So if you are officially stopped and detained by a police officer in or out of a vehicle, you have now a duty to let them know that you have a loaded firearm or an unloaded firearm on your person. The state PBA, they wanted to make sure, with few exceptions, that retired police officers who qualify for carrying concealed loaded firearms are dealt with similarly, if not the same, as actively employed police officers. And we did that. There's only a handful or less sensitive places that retired police officers can't go. And that would include court building, polling places, government buildings, jails, places like that, which they can't go in now anyway. So some of this bill just repeats other places of law.
Mhm.
So the police are happy, houses of worship are happy, hospitals are happy, daycares are happy, high schools and grade schools are happy, mental health facilities are happy. Who would not want these places to be listed as protective, sensitive places? It's common sense.
Mhm.
I'd like to go back to the statement that I don't want to make sure, I want to make sure that I didn't misunderstand what you said, that an individual mosque or house of worship has the control to make that decision as to who may carry and who may not within their own congregation.
Of the legal permit holders, yes.
Of the legal permit holders, so that within the context of that particular organization, the leaders of that organization can decide to have a blanket statement. You who are permit owners may carry in this designated sensitive area. So is there, it feels like there's a little disconnect. Okay, there's a law that says that we can't have these places who are considered sensitive filled with those who have permits to conceal carry, and yet the control seems to be within the organization as opposed to within the legislation. Am I misunderstanding this? If I am, please clarify for me.
I'm not sure I'm following you, PJ, but I'll just re-clarify. All the owners or occupants or the possessors of private property through this legislation are empowered to allow or disallow someone from carrying a concealed firearm on their property. A church, a mosque, synagogue is no different than your personal house, apartment, or condo.
So a bar or a restaurant owner can say, well, anybody's got a permit can carry. How does the legislation then protect people?
So
I mean, I'm assuming that permit holders
bar
are the
restaurant
lawful citizens.
A bar and restaurant, I believe, is in a separate category and not part of what we just
That's
spoke
not part of that. It is listed though as part of the sensitive area designation. So I'm just trying to understand it. Either it is prohibiting permit holders from concealed carry, or it's not, because the decision seems to rest with the organization's
as it should. As it should.
Okay.
PJ gets to decide who can enter her home with a concealed weapon and who cannot.
So then where is the effectiveness in the legislation?
Regarding private property, that's on the property owner.
That's on the property owner or the organization owner or the venue owner or any of the heads of any of these sensitive area locations. They make those decisions. Of course.
And we also repeated law under the criminal law of New Jersey, Title 2C. There is what's called a de minimis infraction. It's already it's already law now, de minimis infraction. But we repeated that in this bill to make it very clear that if you happen to walk across someone's yard or a drive-through or something like that, if it was, or inadvertently displayed your weapon, which would mean it's no longer concealed, it's because someone saw your gun. That's a de minimis infraction, and we've addressed that. So if anyone were to make an argument, oh, you're sending law-abiding people to jail, that's just, it's ignorant. Mm-hmm. People aren't going to jail for de minimis infractions. You can't cite me a single case.
Okay. How is it being received in the NRA faction?
Well, they're an all or nothing organization. I get it. I speak with NRA people all the time. I speak with the Second Amendment Society people. Second Amendment Society people, they're great people. The Second Amendment Society organization serves a very important role. I totally respect them. I've relied on them. I talk to the gun shop owners all the time. I go to the gun range. I've posted online from taking my children there to date night with my wife. I talk to all of them. Even though they're going to make more money now because of my bill, they don't like my bill. It's, keep your hands off. They don't even like me acknowledging they exist. It's an odd paradigm that I have with them, but I use them all the time as a resource. Mm-hmm. And so I'm not anti-NRA. I'm not anti-Second Amendment. Thank God they exist. And also there's the National African American Gun Association that I'm very interested in. I spoke with their leadership, their New Jersey leadership. Very important organizations.
Interesting. Did you tell me there's a vote coming up tomorrow?
It was scheduled. I don't know if it'll actually happen tomorrow. I think there might be some consideration in rescheduling. And
what is the vote supposed to be on?
Well, it's on the whole board list of bills, but one would be presumably my bill.
What is this, the full assembly or the committee still? Is that out of committee?
No, this would be a full general assembly.
Oh, okay, so it's on the floor. All right.
Yeah, I mean, once in a while they cancel the voting session.
Yeah,
it'll be attendance.
Gotcha. And there's a companion bill in the Senate, right?
There is, and I'm working with the Senate leadership. Senate President Scutari offers great leadership. He's also a moderate, but joins me in taking the seriousness of this matter and a sense of urgency that we have right now. Mm-hmm. I've also worked with the committee chairwoman and Senator Greenstein on this. This is a very complicated and complex issue. Sure is. We've simplified the bill as much as we can. It's a common sense bill. It's all about safety.
Mm-hmm. Do you have any indications from Murphy's office as to what his action might be?
Governor Murphy will sign any bill that gets out of both houses.
Oh, okay.
And simply, it's not easy to get this bill, any version of this bill, out because there's so many opinions involved in this. Mm-hmm. But understand this, Bill, this is the ugly world of politics. One, we have to recognize we need something to put into law because of the new playing field, the Supreme Court in its radical fanatic decision. But there's no bill we could possibly write that won't be voted down by the Republicans and that won't be challenged in the courts. Mm-hmm. There's no version. Every sentence will be challenged in the courts. But me as a legislator whose top priority is keeping my constituents safe. If I don't put it in the bill, it'll never be law. We don't know what's going to happen in the district court. We don't know what's going to happen in the circuit court. We don't know what's going to happen in the Supreme Court. But I know if I don't put that safety measure in the bill, it has no hope of becoming law.
Mm-hmm.
So if one of those courts dissolve or repeal it back or refer it back to us, that's on them. That's their job. That's our system.
Mm-hmm.
Judges need to do their job, but I need to do mine as a legislator and keep people safe. And unlike that person who had some questions, and like him, I'm not a judge, nor will I ever be. And neither is he. I'm focusing on doing my job, and that job is to keep New Jersey as safe as I can. And the Supreme Court explicitly said we can legislate in the areas that we are legislating. That's also in the Brune, in the Heller, in the McDonald case. So my advice to everybody is you need to just do your job, stay in your lane, and let the others do their part of the job.
Mm-hmm. Are you getting a lot of your calls, your emails, or whatever? Are they tending to go either way on this, yay or nay?
I know where my constituents want me. I always keep a close pulse on that, best I can anyway. But you should also understand when you have associations like the NRA, the Second Amendment Society, they have these automated systems of getting their members to communicate with you. It's very effective. I generally read most responses coming into my office just in courtesy. Can't read everything because they just flood in. That's an organized system, machinery that does that. I mean, the teachers union does it. All these groups have their mechanisms to do that. The people who I'm explicitly representing when it comes to safety, they don't have an organization. They're not formulated. They don't have a machine behind them.
Okay. Anything else, Peach?
Yeah. Is there a method of enforcement somehow prohibiting these permit holders? And they walk into a school, they walk into a bar or a sporting arena or airport or whatever. I know airport, the security is very high level. But some of the private businesses that are considered sensitive areas, how is it being monitored that someone is not walking in the door with a concealed weapon and does or does not have a permit? Is that part of this in any way?
It is not. So every building, facility, organization conducts its own security as it sees fit, from the high school to a courtroom to a jail. But they have the right to put into place the security that they see fit.
Mm-hmm. But they also need to know that they are now designated sensitive areas. So the security, at least consciousness, is elevated at that point.
A week and a half ago, I made the example of flying an airplane. I used to take flight lessons. And before you get in an airplane, you have to inspect that airplane. You have to know how to maintain parts of it. You have to map out your route. You have to map out where you're going to land. Sometimes you map out potential emergency landing spots. You cannot, nor should you, mindlessly fly an airplane. And the same thing with a loaded firearm. You should not be mindlessly leaving your house, your vehicle, place of work, with a loaded firearm and just go about your day. It's an immense amount of responsibility. Huge. And thankfully, the enhanced training that you're going to get will cover that. You're going to need to know how to maintain your weapon, how to load it, how to unload it, how to holster it, how to unholster it. You're going to learn about the use of deadly force, the de-escalation tactics. You're going to learn about marksmanship, and you're going to have to prove that every time you renew your permit. These are things you would expect. You would think nothing less of expecting these safety measures from a private pilot that may be taking you for a ride than you would from someone who's carrying a loaded firearm.
Mhm. Does this apply just to handguns, or is it also long guns?
My bill is very focused. It's on the concealed carry permit, qualifications, where you can not go, and the renewal process and the insurance
Mm-hmm.
as well.
But it's handguns.
Correct. The only carry permit is with handguns.
Okay, so you can't get a carry permit for a. Well, I guess a shotgun
Uzi.
would be. I guess a shotgun would be a hunting license. So.
Yeah, but you could carry any gun in your house or your place of work.
Mm-hmm.
Obviously, with approval of the homeowner and place of work, place of business.
Right. Okay. All right. I'm looking. I don't see any other questions from folks. I know we have watchers. I don't see anybody posting any questions, so that must mean we answered everybody's questions before they could ask them, which I guess is always a good sign. PJ, do you have anything else that you wanted to bring up or add?
No, I'd like to see some publicity about this once it's in place to inform those who are designates of the sensitive areas who may not be aware of your legislation and that they have now been designated as sensitive areas so that their monitoring of the situation can be heightened.
I had this bill reviewed in 3 different committee meetings, and my Republican colleagues didn't like the fact that people who use marijuana were prohibited. And I had to explain to them they're not. But people who are drinking should not be drinking or drunk, should not be carrying a loaded firearm. They tried to make example of someone walking their dog and picking up poop on someone's front lawn. That's such a ridiculous, ignorant argument, because no one's going to prosecute. And our criminal code already addresses de minimis violations. So, we have a very objective permitting process and application process. You are going to pay more money because it's a much more in-depth process. And we have to get ready for a lot of people out in our public with concealed loaded firearms. And that's a serious notion.
Mm-hmm.
And I don't begrudge them. I plan on having a concealed carry permit at some point in the future, just because I would never ask someone to do something that I'm not willing to do myself. So I'm going to go through the process.
Mm-hmm.
Yes, but you're a responsible gun owner. You know what the tenets of the privilege and the responsibility of carrying any weapon for whatever the purpose. You know that. Okay.
And you should be trained on the gun
Exactly.
that is associated with your carry permit. And they don't even like that. My Republican colleagues, I asked them on the record, what changes to this bill will be needed for you to vote yes on this bill?
Mm-hmm.
And they said, we'll never vote for any version, which means they stopped legislating. That means the cold steel hands of party politics are firmly grasping their necks. They stopped doing their job. They've put this theoretical, fortune-telling, constitutional question ahead of making their own constituents safe. I say to them, do your job. Partner with me. Collaborate with me. Mm-hmm. Give me material. Give me research. Give me amendments. They've given nothing, with the exception of a few of the Republican colleagues, under the condition that they stay anonymous. And that's sad, but it's our reality.
That is a very sad reality. That a bill that is designed for safety and protection of the constituency, and they're embarrassed to be a part of that. That's
from the Assemblyman who tried making mockery of this issue using the dog poop example. From his ridiculous comments and accusations, I made 2 amendments to the bill since then, thanks to him. So inadvertently, he's become a contributing author. 2 amendments.
Wow. Do you want to talk about what they are?
I reinforced our criminal code for the inadvertent de minimis infractions. So a prosecutor or a judge, if someone wanted to go crazy and charge you for walking your dog and picking up the dog poop, the prosecutor and or the judge can dismiss it. But it's never been done. It's a ridiculous, desperate argument from my fanatic Republicans.
It sounds like you're getting more heat than usual on this bill. Like I'm sensing some real frustration and maybe some bitterness. But it sounds like this bill has really struck a nerve with people, and they're really lashing out at you. Is that accurate?
Some are, but remember, in my caucus, I'm the big gun supporter.
Right.
I take it very seriously. I'm a United States Army veteran and served for the 78th Division Army Reserve Division. I'm a sportsman. I'm the guy that they should want to be a part of this. But our realities are our realities. This is a democracy. You can't make law unless you have the majority voting for that.
Mm-hmm.
And unfortunately, the way politics is the parties are pulled apart sometimes, and they're not talking with each other. They're talking at each other, and it doesn't have to be that way.
Mm-hmm.
And you've known me long enough. I'll sit and to a reasonable person, I'll sit and talk all day long, and I'll take any good idea. I might even take credit for your good idea.
Go ahead.
But we have to do our jobs. Our jobs. I'm not a judge. I'm a legislator.
Right.
And I'm doing my job very well. And for those who are extremely energetic and passionate about their guns, I don't know if you know the gun community.
No, I
it's a
don't.
very intimate relationship. It's a very deep-hearted relationship people have with their firearms. So am I. So my brothers, who probably collectively owned multiple arsenals of weaponry, they are passionate. My sisters, who have handguns and other firearms, they're passionate. The Second Amendment Society, very valuable, very effective organization. They serve a good American purpose. They've even helped me. The gun store owners, I get them. So our differences are few, and they're small, but they're really important. Mm-hmm. And the big difference is, and I'll repeat it, my job as a legislator are to keep my people safe. Mm-hmm. And if I make a mistake or go a little too far or not far enough, as determined by the U.S. Supreme Court, I'm okay with living that mistake. But I'm not okay not keeping my constituents safe. Okay. My school teachers, my school children, my nurses and doctors, my judges, my government employees, they all need to be kept safe.
Okay. So assuming this gets through both houses and the governor signs it, and of course the expected court challenge comes, do you know how committed the state is to defending this?
Extremely committed, and they're already preparing.
Okay.
And, just because it got, the New York was challenged in a district court doesn't mean New York did a good job defending it. Mm-hmm. Everybody has a bad day. Everybody has a good day. And it's only district court. There's still 2 more levels to go, potentially. And we're not in the same, New Jersey's not in the same district as New York. So different judge, different day, different defense. So you never know where it's going to go. Mm-hmm. But if you don't put it in the bill, it's not a part of the discussion.
Right. Well, your bill also doesn't designate the city of Newark as a protected space either. So, or something.
Correct.
Yeah.
Correct.
Are parks included in this?
Mm-hmm.
Parks, only the gun-free zone section of parks, and right now there are none. So the state owns 38, 40 parks, like Sandy Hook, Island State Beach Park, Beach Island State Park, the park that runs from the Delaware Water Gap to High Point. Mm-hmm. I mean, there's wildlife refuges, there's preserves. Those are all good to go unless or until a gun-free zone is marked.
And when you say good to go, you mean that you can carry in them? Assuming
Under my bill, yes.
Yeah.
So I went camping, took 4 15-year-old boys up to the Delaware Water Gap, hiked in those mountains. At that time, I really wish I had a very large caliber pistol with me, because there's nothing up there but birds, trees, and bears.
Bears, yeah.
And just for my protection, I really wish I had a large caliber handgun with me.
Well, bears are family creatures. They won't go after you.
Tell that to the campers who got mauled.
Yeah.
You don't know what preceded that.
Yeah.
Bears are kind of laissez-faire.
Instead of bringing a handgun, which I was not allowed to do, I equipped everybody with whistles. And we blew the whistles at least once every 30 minutes.
Mm-hmm.
That's smart. Yeah. Yeah, I've been watching, just as an aside, I've been watching way too many videos of people opening up their front doors and having a big bear staring in at them, or bear. One where the bear can act is like a 7-Eleven convenience store where the bear actually opened the damn door, went into where the candy was and grabbed out some candy and then left. And the owner's videotaping the whole thing.
Mm-hmm.
Bizarre.
Well, that proves 2 points. They're really intellectually gifted as well as hungry.
I'm the youngest of 9 children, and there are, I won't say how many, there are more than one member of my family who are concealed carry permit people,
mm-hmm.
who often carry. And then I have family members who maintain loaded firearms in their home, and they do so strictly for their own protection.
Mm-hmm.
And I'll stress my sisters, more than one of my 5 sisters maintains a loaded firearm within her wingspan, even in her home,
mm-hmm.
because she believes she has a well-rooted need to self-protect, and for good reason. And I agree with her.
Mm-hmm.
But they all went through training,
mm-hmm.
and they all repeat that training. They
mm-hmm.
all never mindlessly leave their home with or without their gun, without considering where that gun is, its condition, its status, and will they need it or not.
Yeah.
Well,
And being the youngest of 9, I can tell you, I did consult my family and friends and professionals, the police, Attorney General's office, the state police, everybody.
Well, this is not designed to be punitive to the responsible gun owners.
No, but the desperate arguments from my Republican friends, they're going to make this racial. They'll make it about the poor people. One of the prohibitions is you cannot carry a concealed firearm into a homeless shelter. They're trying to make the argument that we're discriminating against homeless people. That's crazy. I mean, you can't have a loaded firearm.
Why would you
walking around in a homeless shelter or a woman's shelter?
Well, considering the high level of mental illness that accompanies homeless shelters, I would say you don't want.
Exactly. We have a women's shelter in Franklin. We just got them a lot of money from the state budget. Imagine the Republicans. Their argument says I'm discriminating against women because I'm stopping firearms from going into a protective housing unit,
right?
Trying to protect the women. I'm stopping loaded firearms from going in there. This is the ridiculous, desperate, fanatical stance the Republicans are making, and I'll know.
I'm sure Peg Wright would have something to say about that.
Exactly. So the last thing I want to say to people, and some of my own Democrats have commented to me, this does nothing to stop the illegal gun trade or the illegal possessions or criminal content. You're right. This doesn't. It was never supposed to address that. This is addressing the legal, law-abiding, responsible citizens. That's what it's designed to do.
Mm-hmm. Okay. Yeah, I grew up with guns. My dad was an Army vet, had guns in the house from the get. Taught me how to shoot on a local fort. and I never really thought twice about it, to be honest with you. But the guns were always, locked away, and maybe I'm a weird guy, but I never really had any inclination to go searching for them ever or anything like that. I honestly most of the time forgot they were even there. But
so when I was, I'll tell you a quick funny story. When I was around 5 or 6 years old, my brother, not knowing if he's going to get shipped out to Vietnam, he brought into my bedroom with my brother and I a couple of rifles, one rifle, 22 caliber, and a 20 gauge shotgun. And he took us out shooting. We loved it. But then he mounted that to a gun rack right above our beds. And my mother and all our neighbors freaked out.
I'll bet.
And he said, well, this is my theory. And this is what he did. He took us shooting all the time, taught us range safety, gun safety, maintenance, so much that he depleted all the interest in firearms.
Yeah.
So now, as kids, he took it. There used to be a place in Route 22, Ray's Sporting Good.
Sure.
Yeah,
My 6th birthday, I have a picture of me shooting for like 3 hours, a 6-year-old. So by the time he was done, it was no big deal. But he then conceded, okay, we're going to put a trigger lock on these guns. There won't be any ammo, but I'm giving the kids the key to the trigger lock so they have a sense of ownership of the level of safety.
Oh, that's a little countered.
Which we did have, but again, there was no ammo.
Right.
We went through that. So then when I was in high school, I joined the Army when I was in high school.
Mm-hmm.
Before I went to basic training, I could blindfolded disassemble and assemble an M16. I knew range safety. My marksmanship was great. And I still didn't really have a whole lot of interest in guns at the time. But it was my upbringing of responsibility, safety, and ownership, and education and supervision. And that's how I was brought up with guns.
Right. Yeah, my dad. I remember one thing my dad told me. We would go to Fort Monmouth had a small bore rifle and pistol range, and that's where he taught me how to shoot. And at the time, he had his service, his 45, his Army issue 45. He had a 22, and he had a snub nose 38. I don't know where he got a snub nose 38 from, but so we went with those guns, and he taught me how to shoot. And he told me, he says, "Don't be afraid of it, but respect it."
Yeah, my first formal safety training was given to me by the NRA at Camp Kinnatini in Stokes Forest, North Jersey.
Yeah,
and that also helped. And I remember those days vividly.
Mm-hmm. I remember what my father said about that, and I also remember how much the shell cartridge in the 45 stung when I shot out the side and hit me in the forehead.
Yeah, and I'll also bring to your attention that Franklin High School used to have a marksman class.
Oh, really? Eek. Yeah. Yeah, that's
might be time to bring that one back.
Yeah, well, JRTC.
So I'm talking, as you can tell, I'm a moderate. I'm not part of that group who kind of wants to villainize firearms.
Mm-hmm.
I think we should be more mature than that, but I also don't want to support these fanatic, radical, everybody should have, be armed with a gun. But I don't see any reason why teaching people at any age gun safety, marksmanship, responsibility, maintenance. Again, we used to have it in our high school.
Yeah,
I did it as a 5 or 6 year old child, and frankly, if you take the curiosity out of it,
mm-hmm.
Yeah, I taught, same thing with just driving a car. As I've stated before publicly, I taught my kids how to do some sort of driving at the age of 12. Mm-hmm. I wanted to take the curiosity out, and I committed to them. Anytime you want to drive, let me know. We did. I did the same thing with my children with guns. At a very young age, we would go down to range 14, Fort Dix, New Jersey, and they could shoot any handgun, any shotgun, any high-powered rifle, even a sniper rifle. They could use an iron sight, a high-powered scope. We did it all.
Mm-hmm.
And now they're not really that interested one way or the other.
Right. You expose it to them when they're young, and either you're gonna spark some real interest in them, or they're just gonna say it's no big deal. I don't need to deal with this. But if you don't know about it, there's always that sort of mystery to it and danger associated with it. So, always, especially when you're a kid and you want to look cool.
But it's very empowering.
When it comes to concealed firearms, remember, two of the most common occurrences is accidental discharge, and then the other one is someone taking your gun away from you.
Right.
There are scenarios that were horrible, that gun carrying people could be exposed to. The big one is someone taking your gun away.
Right.
It's not like you could shoot them just because they're taking your gun away. If they're not presenting the imminent threat of lethal harm to you, you can't shoot them. So how do you stop someone from taking your gun?
Right.
The best way is, one, avoid that situation, then run away, and then of course ultimately don't let them ever know that you have a gun on you.
Right. Exactly. Although sometimes
training will cover all this.
Right.
Yeah.
Yeah.
All right. I think we've covered it. Speaking of covering, I think we've covered it. We've covered the topic again. Those are the only questions. And I just want to say, for the record, Joe, we have no problem with litigation attorneys. They serve a purpose in American life. They help a lot of people. So just want to say that. Okay. Assemblyman Joe Danielsen, we're going to be a little advocacy here now, and I'm going to say good luck with this bill. I personally think it's common sense, and I hope it passes.
Well, thank you for having me on. And again, I want to thank PJ and you, Bill, and the Franklin Advocate, reporter and advocate, for always covering the important issues and the fun issues all throughout Franklin Township. I really do appreciate it, because you guys always present objective facts, or just fun stuff. And I rarely follow one news outlet or another, but I always follow you.
Well, thank you.
We appreciate that.
And just for the record, kudos to you too for taking this on, because this is political dynamite. This topic. So, and
it shouldn't be.
These days it is. It's crazy. These days it is. There are certain topics that are just absolute third rail in politics, and this probably is, if not the top one, in the top three. So
I agree, but you know what? Safety was my target, and I think I hit a bullseye.
I think you did.
Well, once it passes, I'm sure you'll let us know so that we can further delve into the rest of the story. And then I'm in hopes that the communities who are now designated sensitive areas are jumping on board with this, to let their populace be aware that that's the situation.
Well,
because it's well and good for us to chat about this, but
communities are not set as sensitive areas. Specific places are.
Right. Yeah.
Within the communities.
Yeah. Well,
I just want to.
Bars, restaurants, casinos, childcare facilities. We have a few of those.
Yeah. I just want to give a quick shout out to my old Oceanport. Well, she's not. Well, she's my age. Oceanport friend, Christine Glavasich, whose sister is a new resident of East Millstone. So she gives us a thumbs up.
Welcome to Franklin Township
for our conversation. So
good.
Nice to hear from you, Christine.
Yeah. Did you subscribe yet, Christine?
Well, she's not her sister. Her sister's a resident. I don't know if her sister subscribed or not. But
and just for the record, Bill,
yeah.
Your banner on here says this legislation is said to be the toughest in the nation. I wouldn't say the toughest, but I would say the most progressive.
Okay. Okay. We'll go with that.
'Cause
Some,
I don't think sensitive areas are considered to be tough.
right.
I don't think a training requirement is tough. I think it's progressive.
Yeah. Oh, Christine just said she'll make sure her sister does subscribe. So thank you, Christine.
Thank you, Christine.
Appreciate. Christine was one of maybe 5 people I got along with in that town. Anyway, Assemblyman Joe Danielsen and Franklin's son Joe Danielsen, thank you so much for coming on and talking to us and taking the questions and giving us your gut on this really important piece of legislation. And again, good luck with it. It is common sense, I think, and I think there's no reason why. We can get into a whole discussion about the Second Amendment and what the founders really meant with the Second Amendment. But that'll just spawn a whole bunch of stuff that I don't feel like.
And remember,
Another
the
news
Supreme
hour.
Court has many times changed its opinion.
Right.
It's a moving target, but
Mhm.
that's their job, not my job.
Exactly.
And the Constitution, which is the most important document in our country, it lives for us, not the other way around.
Right. Actually, absolutely. All right.
Thank you, Joe, for
Thank you for
what
coming
you're
on.
doing, for being so proactive on a really important issue.
Yeah, love it.
Thank
Thank
you.
you.
Thank you, and we will talk to you soon. Take care.
Okay.
Bye-bye. Where'd you go?
Hmm.
There you go. What happened to us? All right, let me get this. Where are we? What am I doing? I apologize, folks. I'm a little under the weather today, so the brain bone's not what you call.
You're just a little nasal.
Yeah,
We can handle that.
I'm a little teapot. What's with my hair? All right. I got to worry about some things, even if I'm not feeling well. I got the fan going.
Oh, that's funny.
It's unseasonably humid.
It's unseasonably warm.
Warm.
What is with it? It's 70s when it was like 2 degrees last
Crazy.
week.
Tomorrow's going to be in the 60s, and I
Oh
don't.
my gosh.
So it's kind of humid in here, and I got the fan going, and it's blowing my hair all over the place. So.
Uh-oh. Well, we can't have that.
When I sing like this, I sound like Lou Rawls.
Would you like to give us a few
No, I'm not
notes?
going to. I just realized what I did when I said that.
You knew you invited that.
I did not even. That's why I said I'm not thinking. I'm not thinking. So
Well, Franklin, here's a well-guarded secret. Bill Bowman used to be in an all-city choir, and he does have a very nice voice. Plus, he plays the flute.
Bill Bowman was in the
How do
Long
you
Branch
like that?
Choir. How do you like that?
What were you in?
The Long Branch All City Choir.
Yeah, so the guy can sing. Don't let him snow you.
Yeah, right. Anyway, that was a great discussion. I enjoyed that.
Yeah. I still have a problem. Again, one of the persons who brought this up, that you don't want to hamstring the lawful. That's the only little thing
Well,
that
when
concerns.
they said all right, you got to get a permit. You have to have a permit.
Oh, that's a given, of course.
So when they talk about when they're not hamstringing anybody, they're referring to permit holders. So there's the what's the word I'm looking for? When there is the universe of permit holders, and then these are some more regulations that they're going to have to abide by.
That's appropriate.
And
It's
not
just that
hamstringing
it's
anybody.
not the permit holders that are
Well, that's an argument. It's not.
disrupting society.
But you know what? Sometimes it is, because a lot of these mass murders have legally owned guns. So,
Well, this is an issue that we're not going to solve tonight.
No. But I don't see any reason why there shouldn't be. And I did not know that if you have homeowners or renters insurance, that your liability is covered if you're gonna. But I don't see any. Like he says, and like other people have said, if you drive a car, you got to have a minimum of liability insurance in case you hurt somebody.
Well, car's a lethal weapon.
If you own a business, you've got to have some sort of insurance in case someone walks into your store, slips on the floor, cracks their skull. You got to have some kind of insurance. There's no reason, and this is gonna. I know it's gonna happen. They're already writing the damn notes. I know it. But if you have a gun, there's no reason why you shouldn't have some insurance. Just in case what if you hurt somebody?
Well,
What if?
liability.
Yeah, I mean,
Of course.
we've all heard incidences where people were hunting or something and they accidentally shot another hunter because they thought it was a white-tailed deer. I mean, accidents happen. Guns go off sometimes inadvertently when they're being cleaned, although who the hell cleans a loaded gun is beyond me. But accidents happen, and there's no reason why. And beyond which, not everybody's a marksman. Some of these people who have guns,
that leans back to the training that should
yeah.
be involved
some
and
of
inherent in the issuance of any sort of.
some of these folks who have guns have no business having a gun because they can't shoot.
Well, that's in the requisite of the training.
Yes,
That has got to be a part of this whole
get some
process.
training, get know the law. What's wrong with that? Know the law, get some training,
It should be a requirement.
have some practice. You know, although they're probably already at the range, but you know,
Mhm.
some of these people just they can't shoot. So anyway,
Well, you know what it's like to
sure
shoot a
emails
gun.
are
I know
coming
what it's
my
like
way.
to shoot a gun, and I know that if
It
you
ain't
haven't
easy.
shot a gun, you have no idea what's happening to
It
your
is
hand
really not
as you're
easy.
shooting the gun.
It is not, and you know, you got to deal with a kickback if
Exactly.
you know, I remember when I shot that 45 for the first time. Wow, what was it? Not only
Wow, where's my arm?
the sting of the cartridge hitting. I didn't even know the thing did a curve and hit me in the head.
Mm-hmm.
But you know, the kick, not the kickback, the kick, and
So a lot of physical control. So
it was cool. It was cool shooting a 38 because something that's 38 because I felt like Dick Tracy.
Did you have the hat?
No, I didn't, and it had absolutely no. I had absolutely no because the barrels it's a snub nose because the barrel's real short, and there's no. It's really hard to aim. Anyway, I enjoyed that conversation. That's a real important piece of legislation, and it's good that one of our legislators is actually taking it on because it is a third rail of politics. Anything to do with the Second Amendment or guns, and you know, good for him for doing it. So
anyway,
I'm exhausted.
Anyway, it's
hey, we have another one of these tomorrow night,
yes.
October 27th, and it's going to be with I don't know how many, maybe at least 4 of the 6 Board of Education candidates. If the other 2 want to join us, they have all the information they need. I don't think they're gonna, but you know, feel free. We're happy to let you state your positions on things.
Mm-hmm.
Now, and when we do this now, we're not going to argue with people. We're not going to challenge people. We're just going to let them. It's going to be as if they submitted an essay and we printed it, because people have the right.
We may have a question or two.
We have a question, but I'm not going to. You know, we're not going to get into a back and forth with anybody because
no, it's not going to be ugly.
It's not going to be a debate.
We want to know where these candidates stand.
Yeah.
What their experience is, what their affinity for children may be, and where they stand in the scheme of what they're going to contribute to the Board of Education.
Right, and what their philosophy is of what a board member should be. And
well, there's some thorny issues that I think are going to get brought up that do need to be addressed. And we're just the folks to address it.
We are the ones to address them.
Mm-hmm.
When news breaks, we break it. I'm tired. That took it out of me.
Well, guns and safety, it's a huge issue. It's huge. You don't want to tread on the Second Amendment rights of people to defend themselves, to bear arms. That's never the issue.
But there's a whole argument as to what that means.
Well, that too. Self-defense.
A well-regulated militia. People forget that part. Necessary to the security of the state.
Mm-hmm. But we're not talking about the militia when we're talking about the average Franklin Township citizen.
The original version of that Second Amendment was much more explicit about how it related to the militia. Mm-hmm. How they wanted people to, because at the time, you know, when the country was founded, we didn't have a standing army because the founders were and Americans, the colonists, Americans were very suspicious of standing armies because of what they had just gone through with the British Army. You know, the British Army was able to just take up residence in people's houses They could just commandeer their houses for no reason, just because they wanted to. So
It's
the founders and
like what's going on in Ukraine.
well, no, I don't think it was that
All
bad.
right, that's
But
a whole
anyway,
different news hour.
they were very suspicious of standing armies, and for that reason, at the very beginning, we didn't have a standing army. We had militias defending the states.
Now,
And
what's the difference
what's the difference? What do you mean?
between a standing army and militia?
Standing army is a national organization that is meant to, defend the nation as a whole. Militias were meant to defend states, state borders. And the original, I wish I could find it. The original wording of the Second Amendment was much more explicit as to how it only related to those state
militia, as opposed to the federal.
As opposed to this broad thing where everybody should have a gun because that's your God-given right. It was the well-regulated militia was a key part of that original language. I'm going to hear about this too from the Google constitutionalists, but I don't care.
Let's bring it on. If it's a subject that needs to be explored, why not?
Yeah. This is what happens when I don't feel well. I don't care what I say because I don't care.
The truth be told.
Too close to the camera too. I can probably see right up my nose. We're still live, right?
Of course.
I just
This
dropped.
is our wrap up, is it not?
1 second. Okay, I'm back.
Okay. Well, it's been, as usual, a rousing 60 plus minutes.
Yes,
Exploring a really timely topic. Obviously, we're all concerned about safety. We're all concerned about what's going on and trying to prevent any more disasters. I'm not quite sure how this is going to do this. Nonetheless, it's the bill that has teeth.
Bad people are always going to get guns. I mean, it's we've had it since day one. You're not going to listen. I don't want to get philosophical. I mean, but anyway, I'm going to leave it at that.
No, get philosophical. Want to know.
Nobody wants to know my harebrained philosophies about life and that sort of thing. But there's always evil in this world, as Springsteen once wrote. What song was it? Dan Logan would know this right off the bat. I think it might have been Nebraska. I guess there's just an evil in this world, and he was right. I'm trying to thread something here, but there's always going to be an evil in this world, and evil people are going to find the means to do evil things, and no amount of regulation is going to stop that. But what it can do, at least, is mitigate it a bit, so evil doesn't win quite as much and have quite an effect as it would otherwise. But there's no reason why, and I'm sure the NRA could just step right in and offer free training courses and stuff like that. Although they do it for money, I think.
Well, that's a challenge to issue. Yeah,
those training courses should be free.
Well, they should be offered. They should be available. They should be obviously need to be required.
Danielson's right. Their schools should offer these classes.
Absolutely.
Right. Township Board of Education, you should be offering these classes.
Mm-hmm.
I mean, you don't have to. They should. It's not a mandatory thing, but if kids want to learn how to shoot and they want to learn gun safety, I mean, why not? If you're 14 years old, I was 10 when my dad took me to the range and taught me how to shoot.
Well, when you were 10, schools were not being subjected to mass shootings. Kids are afraid.
I don't know.
Now the time is very obvious that while awareness is risen now about self-protection, that it would be a perfect opportunity to introduce training like this and education about the proper handling of firearms.
Yeah, I think so. I think it would give people a sense of empowerment.
Exactly.
Exactly. I think they should teach people how to disarm someone with a gun.
Yeah, self-defense.
I mean,
Well, that's a whole nother news hour. I'd love to engage some of our police officers who are currently involved in self-defense courses that are offered to varying age groups and men and women. I'd love to explore that because that's also part of the package. If you feel like you can take care of yourself, your fear level is reduced, and your fear level being reduced in an emergent dangerous situation enables you to be logically thinking of the next step. If you know what your next step could be and that you're capable of achieving that, that's a real sense of empowerment. Yeah, I'd love to see those kinds of classes. So
Right.
anyway,
So anyway,
it's always interesting to wonder after our guest has departed if someone is paying attention to our little wrap up here.
it looks
So
like
I'm going to issue a challenge that if you're listening and you respond to us either in an email to editor@franklinreporter.com or ads at franklinreporter.com, which is ads at franklinreporter.com. If you are listening to our wrap up and you can offer us a tidbit of some of the things that we touched on, we'll give you a special discount on a subscription for 1 year.
oh, we will we?
Yes, I think that's appropriate. We want to see who's actually paying attention.
Okay.
And I hate those nasty little games, but we tend to ramble on a little bit, and occasionally there's a nugget of truth or a nugget of information that is not contained in the regular news hour. So, Franklin, if you've been listening, please give us a little email jingle. Let us know what you think.
And again, the website is franklinreporter.com. I still can't pronounce that FR. Franklin. I have no idea why I slur it.
Hey, it's the hair.
You think I was British?
No, no one would think you're British.
That's an old joke.
Anyway, all right. So again, tomorrow night, it's at 7 p.m. Is that
7
correct?
p.m.
Right
Be
here at the
there.
Franklin Reporter Facebook page, I do believe,
Channel.
where you can find us, and we will be profiling the candidates, or at least I think we have 4 out of 6.
2/3 of them, yes, unless the
4
other
out of 6 who have responded that they will be participating.
decide we're not communists and decide to come on, then we'll have all 6. It's the Dayquil. It's making me goonie.
That's it. That's exactly it. All right, Franklin.
No, we're not done yet.
This is the wrap up. If you want to reach us at our website, which is our 24/7 news site, it's franklinreporter.com. We do tweet. Where'd the Twitter thing go? Twitter @Franklin Editor.
Yes.
We do Facebook, which you know because you're here. And we do the Instagram at Franklin_reporter_and_advocate.
We do Twitter.
So inclined. And Bill ticks.
Did I say Twitter? I meant TikTok.
Bill's the TikTok.
I just saw a thing
He's trying to convince me it's a good thing.
Let me tell you something.
I know every major news source in the universe uses it. I know.
Research just did something. It used to be 25 to 49 got most of the news from TikTok. No. Most people get their news from TikTok. So
most Frankliners get their news from the Franklin Reporter and Advocate.
Right, depending on
I guess we have to be on TikTok. So take it away, Bill Bowman.
You got to go where they are, and I'm on TikTok. We're on TikTok.
Franklin. This applies too. If you can identify which of the modalities, social media wise, PJ is not fond of, we'll also invite a discount for a subscription to the Franklin Reporter and Advocate website.
Yeah.
Which at 10 cents a day is already quite a discount.
Best deal in town.
So,
there you have it.
All tomorrow night. Is there anything else that you'd like to chat about?
We have to talk about the monthly digest, which comes out every month, and the new issue is
Oops, there we go.
The new issue of the monthly digest. The lead story is the 11 issue. You know, Rutgers Plaza, the Kmart That's what it's.
Right. What's
Guys,
being proposed?
did you see Jim Cramer was here? Mad Money Jim. How the heck? Okay, I can't get this right. Jim Cramer was here pushing his latest mezcal. So was the guy from Breaking Bad, that fella whose name I can't remember.
There were two fellows.
Right, two guys from Breaking Bad were here a few months ago. They had their own
Yes.
mezcal, and now Jim Cramer, Mad Money Jim Cramer, has it, and his wife has their own mezcal. Mezcal seems to be the sexy drink of the year now. I guess it's what
Oh, maybe we should get on the buzzboard.
all the cool kids are
Have a
drinking.
Franklin Reporter mezcal.
Jim Cramer is a very nice man, by the way.
Yeah, he appeared to be.
He comes across as a lunatic on his show, but he's a very, very quiet and very soft-spoken guy.
And very pro newspaper.
Oh,
Very pro print.
And he's a former newspaper guy.
How do you like that?
He worked for a paper down in Florida. He covered the Ted Bundy trial.
Wow. Oh, he could be a fun news hour. What do you think?
That could be fun. Yeah, we could talk to him about that. We have something.
Yeah.
I got something brewing financially, not, investing in anything, but financially oriented news is affecting Franklin Township. I have percolating.
Uh-oh.
So maybe if it ever gets launched,
Uh-huh.
we can have him on and we can talk about stuff, and we'll talk about stuff. Let's put it that. I don't.
Yeah, I'd like to see him do some kind of a column with us on a regular basis.
I probably couldn't afford him, but anyway. We got the monthly digest. Obviously, that's a monthly newspaper that comes out. We got the morning report, which is your 5 a.m. email, the newsletter giving you the headlines from the previous day. We have our news hour, which you're watching. We have our live streams. We have it all, Franklin. You can't get anything. That's not what I was going to say. You can't get any broader delivery of news than you can from us. I'm going.
It's the Dayquil, folks.
It is a day. I'm going to sleep after this because
Well, there are a lot of interesting activities that are coming up over the weekend. We have a Diwali celebration on Friday night at the new Nalan restaurant on 27 in Franklin Park. We hope you'll tune in for that. And then Saturday appears to be Trunk or Treat Day on Hamilton Street, for sure. I think there may be one other.
Isn't the one at the youth center?
There, I think, yes, I think there's also one, or that is the one.
There's no, the trunk or treat on Hamilton.
There are two trunk or treats then.
And there's one at the youth center, yeah.
Mm-hmm. So that'll be happening, and we'll be at those.
Nobody goes trick or treat anymore.
I know nobody cares, but I love candy corn. Of course, I like pumpkin spice coffee too, or pumpkin spice pancakes, or I like Halloween.
I saw pumpkin spice referred to as white people's masala.
Oh, I just love it. I just got a cup today at Dunkin' Donuts, and I broke down and I bought the little K cups because they're only going to do this for one more month.
Yeah.
It's just it's so fall. Just the cinnamon, the pumpkin, it's great.
And folks, if you do want to get your pumpkin spice coffee fix, be sure to go to our friend Muhammad at Dunkin' Donuts in the Village Plaza on Eastern Avenue. He's a very nice man, and he'll appreciate your business.
Right, and he takes very good care of his customers.
He does.
We appreciate that.
He's also an advertiser.
Well, he's an advertiser because he's an intelligent man, and he realized the value of when constituents in Franklin Township want to know the news. They're looking at the Franklin Reporter and Advocate family of publications.
How you go?
Do include the website, the monthly digest, the morning report, our news hours, our podcasts, our interviewing, our live streams. We're out there, Franklin. And if we've heard it once, we've heard it 10 times this week alone. You guys are everywhere. How do you do it? When we figure that out, we'll tell you.
Oh, yeah. All right.
So we look forward to seeing your smiling faces at any one of the events that happen in Franklin Township. We do our best to get to as many as possible. And we ask you if there's something that you would like us to cover. And we'll do our best to be there. But we got to know about it.
Absolutely. We got to know about it. We're not mind readers. Okay, Franklin,
All right.
till we meet again, stay safe.
Continued.
PJ, say that thing that you always say.
I say that this is PJ Parker, Franklin reporter and advocate, thanking you all for tuning in, and we'll be back.